everyone, thanks for joining us. So today we will be spending about 45 minutes talking about MBA opportunities at Google, and then we will spend the rest of the time answering your questions. So my name is Caroline. I work in university programs at Google. Essentially what I do is I organize programs and events for our MBA students all across Europe, Middle East and Africa. So I'm very excited to be live today from the Dublin YouTube Live studio with my colleague Eleanor.
So hi everyone, I'm Eleanor. I am the MBA intern recruiter for Europe, Middle East and Africa. I'm based here in the headquarters of EMEA, so Dublin. And I'm also really excited to be here today to go through the MBA opportunities as well as answer any of your live questions.
Cool, so let's have a look at the agenda. So we have an exciting agenda for you today. So we will start by giving you an overview of the MBA opportunities at Google. So that includes internships at Google. We'll talk about eligibility, what type of internships we offer, which locations, etc. But we will also talk about full-time roles at Google. Then we will move on to the recruitment piece. So we will demystify a little bit the recruitment process we have in Google. I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there, or maybe you have some gaps in terms of what it entails and what are the attributes that we look at, etc. So Eleanor will go through this with you today. Then we have a couple of MBA alumni joining us today. So they will be here answering some questions, talking about their own experiences joining Google, what they do, the teams they are in, what they like the most, what they dislike, anything really you want to know, they will be able to answer your live questions as well. And that leads me to the last part of today's session. So as I said, the last 15 minutes or so will be for your questions and we answer them. So if you look at the right hand side of the YouTube page, you have Q&A function. So you can type in your questions and we'll save them for last and we'll answer them one by one. Okay, so just a couple of words in terms of our culture and where we started. As you know, it's been 22 years since Larry Page and Sergey Brin founded Google back in 1998. And while the scale and the growth of the company has definitely changed since those early days, our mission of making the world's information universally accessible and useful has not changed. And this is quite special and important to me because no matter what job you end up doing at Google, all of us are entitled and all of us are responsible for keeping the same standards by ensuring that we work on projects and opportunities and products that are creating a meaningful impact for our users. So that's kind of the angle we're going to take today when we will be describing the different roles and opportunities at Google. We will try to not only explain what you could be doing, but also the impact that you can have. So with no further ado, I'm going to leave it to Eleanor to talk about the opportunities at Google when you have an MBA.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Caroline. Okay, so as you can see from the slide, we are hiring. Some of you probably already know that our applications are open and hopefully some of you have already applied. So you can see there the application window is, so they've been open since the 16th of September and then the closing date is the 22nd of November. So our MBA internships are offered across EMEA and interns are able to put their education to use from day one. What we're going to do is send a follow-up email with the link to applying, but if you like you can submit your resume using the link on the slide there. Please note that any of the O's are the letter O and not a zero, as I know sometimes that can be a little bit misleading. Perfect. So to go through a little bit of the eligibility around an MBA internship. So candidates must be currently enrolled in a full-time MBA degree and they must maintain student status throughout the internship. So say for example, if you are available to do an internship for 12 weeks from next summer, you will need to be still an MBA student and ideally graduating after the internship, whether that's the end of next year, so end of 2020 or 2021. Like that, priority is given to students graduating end of 2020 or during 2021. Therefore, we do ask that you include your graduation date and month on your resume, as it's really helpful for us to know. In terms of teams and locations, the majority of our positions are available in Dublin, so the headquarters of Europe, Middle East and Africa, and also London. And then this year we will have some roles based from our Paris office as well, and our German offices, so in Hamburg and Munich. Those roles are language specific, so we're looking for French speakers as well, or German speakers. However, the roles in Dublin and London are mainly language agnostic, so English speaking. It is a paid internship, and we also do offer a relocation package as well to help you get set up for success, especially in your first few weeks, if you need to fly to the certain office, or help you with your rent in the first couple of months. In terms of the roles that we offer, the roles are mainly across sales, engineering and technology, finance, publishing and communications, and we will go through a little bit more information around those areas in the coming slides. So in terms of the breakdown of our internships and the orgs, we hire into 3 different orgs. So the MBA interns are hired into the 3 different orgs. So product and engineering, which mainly includes Google Cloud and some communications roles. We also then have what we call GBO, which stands for Global Business Organizations. And those areas include global sales and operations and global partnerships. And lastly, we have some roles within our general and administration teams, and the majority of those roles are hired, and MBAs are hired into finance. Cool, so we decided to give you a little breakthrough of the different roles that we have globally, in case some of you are interested in exploring our other regions also. And again, what's nice is the application dates are the same globally, so in the US, EMEA and APAC, so the 16th of September to the 22nd of November. In North America, our MBA roles are mainly based in the Bay Area, Ann Arbor and New York. And as you can see from the slide, the requirements include local language fluency, first year students currently enrolled in a 2-year MBA program, and you must have authorization to work in the US or Canada and or be attending a business school in the US. For EMEA then, so Europe and Middle East, as advised, the locations are Dublin, London, with some roles in Munich and Hamburg and Paris. And the main requirements for EMEA is that you have local language fluency. And what's exciting is we do support work authorization for anyone that is, from the US or across APAC and obviously EMEA. For Asia Pacific then, which we call APAC here at Google, the locations include China, Japan, Southeast Asia, South Korea and India. And the requirements again are mainly local language fluency, and also you need to have authorization to work in the specified countries on the left and or be attending a business school in the US. So to go through a little bit about the recruitment process. So as an MBA student, and if applying for the internships, this is basically what you can expect. So as advised, you apply online using that link, and again we will share the link to the actual requisition. What's really nice is that it's quite a quick application process. You just need to apply with your resume. And what we ask is, if you have your resume ready and up to date, definitely get it in now. We're currently in the process of reviewing resumes and seeing some really great ones coming through, and we will be reviewing right up until the new year. So I definitely wouldn't hold out till the 22nd of November. It's really great to start seeing them coming through at the moment. If you apply online and we review your resume and we feel that you would be a good fit for some of our open roles, we will reach out and send you what we call a supplemental form. And basically that just has some questions to ask you about your availability for the months of our internships. So like that, the majority of our internships are for 12 weeks during the summer months, but we may offer some internships as well if you're available earlier in the year as well, from even January. Depending what the project looks like, what the team are looking for, and then how your availability looks. Then I will review those details and try to ensure that everything kind of fits with both the business and your own flexibility. And from there then, if necessary, I may reach out to have a recruiter phone screen. So I screen some of our resumes and students if I have any questions further to the information you filled in the supplemental form, or sometimes we might go straight to interviews. And the actual formal interview process then includes 2 hangout interviews. So GVC, which is Google Video Conference. You don't need to travel to the offices or anything like that, as we are conscious you're studying and probably have lectures and assignments due in. But you will have the opportunity then to meet with the business for 2 interviews over Hangout. They will assess different areas, so our 4 Google attributes that I will touch on in the next couple of slides. And you will get to meet with more than likely the host manager of your team and someone that would be a peer on your team if you were successful. From there then I get the thumbs up hopefully from the business to say they'd like to proceed and move forward. And if that's the case, then we'll start working together on your hiring summary, where I'll need some additional information like your transcripts, maybe dates of previous employment, and we will send everything through to our committee as a hiring summary. From there, the committee review and see, do they feel that you are a strong fit for both the internship but also long term at Google as well. And then fingers crossed, once we get the green light, we'll be at offer stage. So I'll give you a call and we will kind of go through the offer details, and fingers crossed everything will sound good to you if it works out well and you'll accept and join us next year. We also do hire full-time positions for MBAs, and I guess there's 2 kind of different areas in how you can be hired as an MBA student full-time at Google. So the first is certainly around how you could convert as an MBA intern. So one of the main kind of reasons for hiring MBA interns is to provide full-time pipeline as well. And what we try to do is, if you come in and join a team that you really enjoy and are a good fit for, the goal is to try and support you through the potential full-time opportunities. So like that, if you enjoy the role and you perform really well and the team are supportive, we will ideally hopefully move through to a full-time offer for you. What's nice is if you actually decide to convert within your current team, and if there's a potential role open, you won't need to do any additional interviews. It all comes down to your feedback from your internship. However, if you wanted to explore other roles as well, you would do an additional 2 interviews before you would get that final offer. Another way that you can come through as an MBA, so some of you are conscious might already be graduating this year and mightn't be eligible for an MBA internship, or even you might want to explore our full-time opportunities in the future. The actual interview process for that is, again, you apply online with the link, so it brings you to Google Careers. Generally you would have 1 to 2 phone interviews. One would probably be with the recruiter, and then the other would be with the business to see and assess your motivation. And then in terms of interviews, you could have 3 to 4 on-site interviews. So you would come into the office and we would assess our different attributes in more depth than an actual internship interview. Similar then to the MBA internship, you are brought then to committee review, where your hiring summary is shared with our hiring committee. And then finally, offer stage. Again, fingers crossed if all goes well. So I guess to kind of touch on what we look for at Google, and this is both at internship stage as well as full-time opportunities, and basically why we really kind of assess all 4 attributes even at internship stage is to see if you would be a fit for Google long-term also. And we look at 4 different areas. So the first one, as you can see from the slide, is how a candidate thinks. And basically this is to hear how you problem solve. The questions are generally maybe challenging areas that could come up or arise in Google that you more than likely wouldn't have experienced before. And what we're looking for is to see, how you would talk us through that problem and to try find the right solution. So we love to see people asking relevant questions, talking us through like how you're thinking, the things that you would kind of keep in mind to get to that solution. And then, what's really important as well is how you structure that answer too, and kind of keep it concise. The other areas then we look at are leadership skills. And like that, when you think of leadership, we're not looking for, previous leadership titles or anything like that. It's more so seeing how you have maybe influenced others in the past, or, how you would step up where necessary, and, where they have the ability to use your initiative, and things like that. And then there's role related knowledge. So this is where we're going to really focus on the actual role that you're interviewing for. And say, for example, if that's cloud or finance, the questions will be around that team and, maybe some of the areas that the team are currently working on, and seeing, how you would be able to fit in and help solve some of those projects, etc. And lastly, then Googliness. So Googliness describes our culture here at Google. And really we want to see, what kind of value you could bring to Google, both as a person, but also, within the business. We're looking for people that, strive to always obviously do the right thing, but also, bring impact with your team, like work well as a team member, really, put our clients first. And like that, when it comes to hopefully interview stage, we will share more information to help you really prepare, and more information with job descriptions, etc. So I think Caroline is going to take over from here.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was very clear. If there's anything that you're a bit unsure about, or you still have a question around the recruitment process, please use the question functionalities, and we'll answer your questions in a few minutes. There's just one thing I wanted to clarify as well on the application phase. When you apply for an internship at Google, you will apply for a generic requisition. So it's called Google MBA 2020 internship, and then you select the location that you're the most interested in. So it's a generic one. You don't really apply for a role, just the rec first. For full-time, it's different. You actually look for a job that is of interest on the Google career page, and then you apply for it. So it's just important to notice the difference. Great, so hope it was interesting. Now we're gonna hear from our panelists, so I'm gonna call them all on the stage. All right, so let's start with some introductions. Perhaps, Maria, do you want to kick it off?
Sounds good. Hi everyone, I'm Mariah. I did my MBA 2017-2018 at Oxford Said Business School. I then did an MBA summer internship here at Google in London on the Cloud Professional Services team. I was lucky enough to convert to full-time, so I started in January again on the Cloud Professional Services team. And what my job is basically working with customers, large enterprise customers who are adopting Google Cloud. So working through the technical architecture, working with making sure that they optimize their use of the cloud, and making sure that they're kind of all set in that aspect. So my background is technical, but then I was able to use my MBA skills to do the customer facing sort of thing, and the leadership skills as well were really helpful.
Great.
Yeah, hello everybody, my name is Gal. I'm a full-time MBA student at Daboconi University, and I'm currently an MBA intern here at Google's headquarters in Dublin. I joined Google 6 weeks ago as part of the OPG team. OPG stands for the Online Partnership Group, and it's actually the team that helps online publishers and developers grow their business using the modernization solution of Google advertisement. So for example, any website or app that would like to generate revenues can potentially partner with Google and integrate display advertisement into their platform. As part of my internship project, I was asked to make a market overview analysis regarding the new acquisition potential for partners in EMEA. So working with tier 1 websites, or better, the most strategic opportunities out there, I would like to supply recommendations regarding the country and the verticals where the business development team should concentrate their efforts on. Right now I just passed the midpoint of my project, and I'm actually wrapping up all the recommendations and working closely with stakeholders in order to give them my findings and think of ways to improve our pipelines and our efforts. Yeah.
Great. How many weeks do you have left in your internship?
So I still have 5 weeks to go forward.
Very good. Thank you.
Great. I'll step in just in case you're wondering where Rob is today. So unfortunately Rob couldn't make it, but what I'm going to do is kind of share some of his insights from the finance internship as well. So Rob is a full-time employee now with the marketing finance team, and looks after a lot of the devices and services. And Rob actually did a finance MBA internship last summer and is working in the London office.
Great. I'm Daniel. I work with the retail go-to-market strategy team based in London. So my role is focused on building tools, training, and solutions, so products, for the retail industry, mainly to switch them from traditional sort of store-based business models to more digital models. I also am a product lead for Europe, Middle East, and Africa for a new product that we've just launched in France and the US. So excited about that. And like Mariah, I went to Oxford Said Business School as well. I did intern with a different team, the platforms go-to-market team. So if you have questions about that process, happy to answer those as well.
Great, thank you all very much. So I'd like to ask my first question. We talked a lot about misconceptions and, you know, people having some ideas of what Google can look like in terms of the process and the roles. So I guess that brings my first question. What surprised you when you joined Google? Is there anything that you weren't aware of or really you didn't have any idea of?
I'd say the internal organization is complex, very, very complex. I still don't fully understand cloud in that division.
Me either.
It takes a lot of time to really understand, honestly, just the number of business lines that we're in, the number of products that we have, and you understand sort of a piece of it, and you get to know it, I guess, by just sort of interacting with people. So that can take a while. The onboarding process can be a little bit lengthy, but again, that's the expectation. So you get a lot of sort of runway to get on board.
Very good.
I think another thing is before I joined Google, I heard about the culture and how great it was, and I was like, that can't be true. And then I got here and there's dogs around the office all the time, and everyone is incredibly nice. And I know at least, you know, during your MBA program, you meet incredibly smart people that have a variety of different interests and come from a variety of different places. And what's great about Google is that doesn't stop. So when you start at Google, you meet another whole network of super interesting people who have different sorts of backgrounds and like to do different things outside of work, and it really is just kind of like a really nice continuation on from the MBA, where you have this great network, and then you get an even better one at Google sometimes.
Yeah, just adding a bit more on top of that, I was really surprised from the amount of resources and efforts that actually the company are putting in you as a Googler. So both the tools that you can find online and the funds that you can receive in order to grow yourself both on a professional level and a personal level is really amazing. Like, you have everything and you can find all the resources that you need just to grow and do the things that you like.
Very good, that's very true as well. Rob, do you have anything
Yes. I know Rob was so kind to kind of share kind of his 6 things that surprised him about working at Google, and certainly he mentioned that it was the great culture, pretty much what Mariah and Daniel mentioned in terms of, you know, you hear a lot about how great the culture is at Google, but when he actually joined, he was like, okay, it's so collaborative. He also shared that even though he's in finance, it really is, you know, truly data driven, whether you're in finance or any of our roles, even like myself and Caroline in HR, so what we call here people operations. Google really looks for people that, you know, are data driven and analytical, and we always really like to back up any points with data. So I thought that was an interesting one. Calendar importance. He did share that, we really work a lot out of our calendars. There's plenty of meetings, and also, you know, we can actually access everyone's calendar at Google, which I think is a really cool thing. And, you know, you can see where people are they available for a chat, and you can block out different times if you're just having some head down work. But I think calendar is certainly a big thing that we use. And then ambiguity and responsibility levels. And certainly I think that's one thing about Google, and if, you know, you're interested in coming to work, like, be ready to work in an ambiguous culture. We don't know everything, we're always learning, you know, there's always new things, like for example the self-driving car, as in you know, there's things that you could end up working on that have never been done before. So it's ambiguous, but it's certainly, if you love that kind of environment, it's a place for you. And then the unbinding well-being commitment as well, like mentioned, you know, he had heard about massages and yoga, but you know, it's certainly, you know, things that you can do if you enjoy meditation or yoga, or even more kind of, you know, gym classes, like cardio-based classes and things like that. So yeah, there were his 6 tips.
I guess for me as well, one thing to add is, at Google you really own your career and you have your own path. So that's one thing that surprised me in the beginning, because it's not one way. You don't just study something and then your path is already lined up for you. You can do whatever you want. So that includes a geographical location. Google is a big company. We have 70 plus offices across the world. So you can actually make those moves relatively easily. And also you study finance, but then 2 years down the line you want to move on to the tech side of the house, or in people ops, or something completely different. Google is going to invest in you to make you succeed, and that's something I like, because you're not predefined, you're not put in a box. You can do whatever you want, which is a nice thing. So my next question is, coming back to your student days. So let's say you're finishing up your MBA, and you're about to do
I was like, that's me.
your internship. So what made you pick Google? Because I'm sure you had other offers on the table and other great companies out there. Why Google?
So I can start. For me, I joined the MBA in order to shift back into the tech industry. So I started my experience in the tech, then I moved to a more traditional industries, and the MBA was a tool for me to shift back. When I was looking at the tech industry as a whole, of course Google is one of the top companies, the most innovative one, and I really want to join it because actually I'm just in love with the products. I'm using the Google's products on a daily basis, and I think that everybody can make really good benefits from the product that we are creating. So joining such a company and affecting so many people was the goal for me in joining the company.
Very good, tech lover.
You have to.
So pre-MBA I was at Microsoft, which is obviously a Google competitor, but also very similar to Google, so large technology company. And after the MBA, I really knew that I wanted to join another large tech company, and I wanted to, spread my wings for Microsoft, see what else was out there. And it was the Google culture that kind of attracted me and made me realize, this is a place that I want to work at. So I was able to chat to a few people who worked at Google. They kind of confirmed that that was the case. And then it was just, honestly, it was a no-brainer. I just wanted to stay in tech, especially Google Cloud, since right now it's up and coming, right? It's new, it's fun, it's interesting. No day looks the same for me, from like a Monday to a Tuesday. Every day is different. And so it's been a really good kind of journey to get to be able to shape something like Google Cloud as it's still kind of coming up in the market.
Yeah, I was actually, I had a job offer from my previous employer in the US consulting firm. So the bar was actually a little bit higher because I knew I could go back to that, and it was, it was going to be a great offer. I also didn't expect to live in London. I was fully intending to move to San Francisco. So the internship was a great opportunity to sort of experience tech. For me, it was completely new. And as you said, I think for me, the appeal is we keep migrating as a business. So whereas we started just in search, we've moved into so many different fields, and GBO, where I sit, is constantly sort of expanding and adding new products. So it's exciting. There's a lot that's always launching and keeps us on our toes.
Very good. Thanks for this honest answer. And what advice would you give to our audience in terms of hard skills they can work on or build upon to maximize the chances for working in Google?
I would say a lot of people, at least in my MBA class, really wanted to move into tech, but maybe didn't have the tech background, which is totally fine. But this is the year that you need to build those skills, right? So go to conferences, attend lectures. I know in Oxford there was a coding boot camp. So do a coding boot camp if it's something that you're interested in. But make sure that you can show that you actually are interested in joining the tech field. Really putting those kind of actions behind your words is really important, just to show that you do have that interest and you are vested in doing it. So that would be my advice. If you really want to switch into tech, learn about the cloud. I think cloud I'm being very, it's my obviously area, but cloud is really where the next, I mean, it's already the next big thing, right? So learn about the 3 big cloud players, learn about what Google differentiates itself as. And there's loads of events, especially in the large cities where I'm sure your programs are. So in London, there's so many different meetups, there's so many different chances to kind of chat to people, network, and really learn more about Google and just the industry itself.
Yeah, maybe slight difference of an answer is I don't actually use a lot of hard skills.
Okay.
That's maybe not, I don't know, that's definitely not indicative of Google at large, but for me it's actually soft skills. It's things like building teams, understanding how to build teams. It's presenting to senior stakeholders. It's sort of all of those things that you can do in the MBA if you push yourself, if you nudge yourself a bit. I would say maybe the hard skill that I do see is data fluency. It's really important to understand how to make data-driven decisions. A lot of times we make sort of anecdotal decisions without even really realizing it, but having hard numbers kind of behind your arguments really empowers them, and Google is a very data-driven company, so I think that's maybe the most important thing that I've seen anyway.
Sure.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think the most was said already. Just building on that, I think that just getting informed into the innovation that is happening right now in the tech industry, you can just read about new startups or new opportunities that are opening on a daily basis and just get familiar with it, because in order to be in the tech and to understand how things are working and what strategy-wise what Google and other companies are looking at, you have to know what's happening out there. So that could be very useful.
Very good. I obviously want to leave room and time for you to ask your own questions to the panelists directly or everyone. But my final question would be around the culture, because that's, in my opinion, what's truly unique in Google and make this place so special. So how would you describe the culture?
I describe it as entrepreneurial. So I worked in previously very hierarchical organizations, so sort of mergers and acquisitions and consulting, and it's very strict, and the path is very clear. You sort of move up from consultant to senior consultant, etc. Google, as you said, it's sort of a self-driven career path, and so you don't quite know where you're going to end up in a couple of years, which is exciting. It can be, I think, a complete mind shift for people that come from sort of more traditional paths. But there's a sort of marketplace for ideas. So if you have something you really want to do, you can start it up either informally or as a 20% project, which I'm actually doing at the moment. And it's cool. You sort of you can potentially just launch something new. So I think Gmail was launched off of 20%, and a few other of our products. So it's exciting, but it's a very different kind of culture for me.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it really is. It's fun. Obviously, the offices they're not, I mean, they're crazy. We have a boat and a bus in our office and like 100 yellow rubber ducks. So the offices are fun. The atmosphere is great. The people that you work with is great. And so that kind of all makes the culture, but I would definitely agree with you have to drive your own career, and you really can just kind of, make choices and have coffee chats with people and other teams that you might be interested in joining or just really want to learn more about. So in cloud, we work a lot with the cloud people, but, I would love to chat more to people in Android just to hear what's going on over there, or Gmail. And so, I think the culture is one of openness. I've never put a coffee on someone's calendar that they've declined, which is amazing. So it's really, you get very caffeinated, but it's fun to just kind of meet people outside of your team as well.
Yeah, it's actually a whole community, a very big one, but also very united. So people are really willing to help you grow yourself, and they help you in the business, they help you professional, whatever you want, and you also take it to a personal side and, join the clubs that we have here, doing other kind of activities outside the work, and everybody's just taking you together and leading you this way.
Yeah, I agree, I guess, on that as well. And it can sometimes sound cliche, but I definitely think for Google's culture, for me, it's certainly the people that we hire. And like that, we do probably hire, the smartest people across the globe, but at the same time, everyone is so humble. Like, you could meet someone for a coffee and you realize that like some of the stuff that they've done in their previous years are just incredible. But at the same time, it's like they're really good people. Everyone is like, really collaborative and like looks out for each other. It's not really like a very competitive environment. And also, like, I love in terms of like the leadership, you know, you could be sitting down with the director for a coffee and you might as well feel like it's, you know, another intern with you. And similarly for interns, I think, you know, like our interns, both undergrad and MBAs, have access to all our systems. You're treated like a full-time employee and you get to come along to like our TGIFs or all hands. I know even Sundar, our CEO, was over last week and actually brought all the interns up and like they took a selfie, but like at the same time it's just amazing. They want to hear from all of you and all of your insights as well, which I love.
Very good. I was looking at the questions, so there's tons of questions, which is great. So we're just gonna get started. Great. If that's okay.
Yes.
So let's start by a question that comes up a lot. Will this be recorded? So absolutely. So with the link that you have clicked on, you will also have access to the recording. So this will stay up on YouTube for at least 24 hours, maybe slightly longer if you're lucky. But yes, you can see the recording via this link. Then a question for you, Eleanor. Can you remind us when the internship begins for this year?
Yeah, really good question. So I guess it can vary. The majority of our internships start during the summer months, and that's basically to do with the academic calendars. So the majority of you studying MBAs, I know a lot of the European MBA schools finish for the summer, so generally we'd have a lot of interns coming in around June till end of August. But again, like that, for example, in terms of GAL's availability, GAL started a little bit later this summer. So once it like suits the team and the project and yourself, we can be quite flexible. Another thing this year is we're hoping to hire potentially some early starts. So even if some of you are available from January for 12 weeks, we know some of the schools like HEC Paris sometimes break for 3 months then, and like we can certainly consider like having you start during those months as well. But yeah, were you going to say something? No, oh, sorry. But yeah, and I guess the other thing to flag, I meant to say it is in terms of the duration, we do aim for 12 weeks in terms of our duration. So ideally we are looking for someone that can come in for 12 weeks max. I guess minimum is approximately 10 weeks, because we just want to make sure that you get that chance to ramp up, have a chance to really kind of have your performance evaluated and, you know, really get a feel for the role itself. And then at least after 10 weeks we feel that like you have a much better understanding of the role and how you feel about Google.
There's another question that seems to be coming up a lot. Do you hire candidates without any tech industry background for internships and full-time? So you kind of touched on that a little bit, but do you want to give
absolutely. So yeah, we do. I mean, obviously coming into Google, you're getting that experience of a tech industry, but in terms of the roles we have a mixture like that, as Mariah shared. So for cloud, it's certainly more technical. We're looking for people that might have had cloud experience in the past or have a lot of technical skills, even some students that have done a computer science degree previously and so on. But however, on the business side, yeah, we're more so looking for people with business experience. So as Daniel mentioned, like more so like soft skills, like as in people that have experience maybe leading teams, or people who have done a lot of like C-level kind of work with managers, so you know, senior stakeholder management, and people who have maybe come from consulting backgrounds. There's quite a mixture of skills that we look for across our roles. So certainly if you don't have like experience from a technical company, please do still apply, and we will try our best to kind of find a role that would be the best fit for you.
Very good, thank you. Still, again, there's a lot of HR related questions, but then we'll move on to more the day-to-day. There's a question around our acceptances on a rolling basis. So does applying earlier in the process have a major advantage?
No, so I guess it doesn't have a major advantage. In terms of the timelines, we obviously are reviewing resumes as they're coming through. So, you know, we've already said, you know, reviewed some resumes that have already been sent, or supplemental form, etc. But in terms of how we hire, we can hire any time from really now until it could be April, to be honest with you. And like that, it depends, you know, we will prioritise maybe our early kind of 2020 starts. we will try to get those roles in first, and then it's a rolling basis depending on the teams that are available to start interviewing, teams that have requested headcount, etc. So like that, some of our interns in the past could have been offered in end of Q4, like November, December, and then others may not actually hear from us until the new year or in spring. So we do ask for your patience. We move as fast as we can, but certainly the offers come at different stages throughout the year, as I'm sure you all know as well.
So let's leave the HR. There's a lot more, and we'll go through them. But just to kind of break things up a little bit, there is a few questions around your day-to-day. So would you be able to give us a high-level overview of your day-to-day, what it entails?
It's a tough one. It's a very, very different day-to-day. So this week's a bit strange because I guess we're in Dublin, and then I go to Paris sort of later in the week. So there's a lot of travel that can come up and sort of vary it. But I would say we have sort of weekly touch points with our managers, with our teams, with wider sort of cross-functional teams. So a lot of times we have community meetings. You break that up with a little time to actually work on projects. We do tend to, all of our meetings are face-to-face, so we do tend to have quite a few meetings because we're always sort of making sure that we're in line with everyone else. And then, sometimes you go to the gym in the middle of the day. We have complete control over our schedules. The organization's not very sort of hierarchical, as I said, so you really do kind of own your own schedule. Sometimes, as you said, you can do a coffee chat with somebody completely outside of your organization. So the norm is kind of what you make it. But I think for a lot of us, it's just making sure that we're always kind of in line and we're getting feedback on projects and things like that.
Yeah, I think my day-to-day kind of looks like whatever my calendar tells me it looks like. So for example, tomorrow I'm visiting a customer in the morning, so running a workshop there around Google Cloud Platform and how they can better basically move off their on-premise data warehouse into GCP. And then in the afternoon, I'll travel back to the office. I'll have a catch-up with my manager. I'm trying to remember what else is on my calendar for tomorrow. Probably have a team meeting and then actually have some time to kind of like sit and do some heads down work. So sending some notes from the meeting earlier in the morning, sending some links, some slide decks, creating some different sorts of assets that need to be sent back to the customer for then some follow-up meetings. But again, every day is kind of different, and it really is up to you to kind of own your schedule. Some people can do really early mornings, so some people come in at 8 and leave a little bit earlier in the day. Some people don't roll in until about 10 and then stay a little bit later. It's really nice and flexible in that sense as well.
Yeah, for me, during the internship project, the days are really a mixture between working on data, viewing data, making the analysis of deciding what to concentrate on, and then meeting with people in different teams just to get some more qualitative information, understand in depth what this data actually means, and then build something from it, delivering all the information that I need to the management and the other peers in my team.
The next question should be interesting for everybody to have your recruitment experience and point of view, but also your own experiences. So this person is asking a very fair and valid question. Thanks for the question, by the way. What should we highlight in our resume and CV since we are applying to a specific role that is for internship? Completely valid point. Do you have any recommendations as to how you built yours back some time ago?
I definitely highlighted, so obviously, again, I come from tech, so I did highlight my technical experience, but I also, my role before was technical consulting, so I also highlighted those leadership skills as well, and cloud in general. So I wasn't, Google Cloud wasn't exactly specifically the team that I was aiming for, but I did have some experience in Azure when I was at Microsoft, so I definitely had that on my CV and kind of highlighted that, but mainly it is around kind of the collaborative working experiences, your leadership, and then also just anything interesting that you've done. So adding something in the interesting section. So if you're a certified scuba diver, or if you have run 6 marathons or something like that, it's really important, and I think that's part of the Googly culture, is to see like you have interests outside of your day-to-day environment and your day-to-day work life or your MBA life. So anything interesting that you can add really makes it, I'm sure, better for Eleanor to read through as well, just to get a kind of feel for you as a person outside of your work.
Did you two do anything differently when you wrote your CV?
I try to put up my entrepreneurial experience. So both of starting new businesses, if you have worked on some kind of project, it can be something on your own or something that you led inside the company that you worked for. And then any soft skill or hard skill that you have, like stakeholders management or innovation side experience, so that's something that could really take you up in the did.
Yeah, definitely. I think as well, like one thing that we love to see is, you know, where you've actually made an impact. So when you're like describing your previous work experience, we love, as we've always said, like data points, but like sharing, you know, things that you've achieved, and like, you know, things that you've improved by certain percentages, or you know, showing like, you know, times that you've really led on a particular project, or even kind of leading without you know, authority. We love like those kind of examples, but certainly, you know, while tailoring your CV to some of the roles that we have open, I would also, you know, put in, you know, additional things, as Mariah said, like your extracurricular and things like that, because we also really want to see, you know, what type of person you are. I think I didn't really get to touch too much on kind of, you know, Rob's day-to-day, who's within finance, but I think to also flag for anyone interested in the finance roles, one big thing that we're really keeping an eye out for is strong analytical experience. So if you have, you know, a lot of work on Google Sheets, or previously worked on Google Sheets or Excel, and people that have worked on big data. Another thing that's a big kind of skill that we're looking at these days is SQL. Would love to see if you have that and your level of SQL as well. So I know some of our go-to-market roles actually recently have started looking for SQL or program languages, but finance too. And like that, if even if you've basic SQL, please just put it down and let us know, because it's also, you know, something that you could work on and train up on. But yeah, like just including any different kind of skills that you have, and we'll be keeping an eye out for those as well.
Perfect. There's still a few questions around eligibility for an internship. So I'll pick this question, and I think it will answer for a couple of more questions on the same topic. Eleanor, am I still eligible for an internship if I graduate in July 2020?
Yeah, you are, if you are available for an internship before July 2020. So like that, put down on your resume you're graduating July 2020. When I review your resume, and if I feel that, you know, you have like good experience for one of the roles we're hiring for, we'll send you the supplemental form and see how your availability is. If you're available then for, like I said, a minimum of 10 weeks, ideally 12 weeks, then say for example, if I feel you're a good fit for our sales teams or cloud, etc., I will share your profile with my hiring manager for that team and say like, hey, this person is graduating July 2020, but they're available for these 3 months. Do you think it would fit with your project? So sometimes we have been flexible, you know, if we feel like you would be a really good fit. So yeah, please just put down like your month and graduation year, and like that we'll send more information on the supplemental forms and try our best to kind of flex with your own availability too. Unfortunately, like if you're graduating July 2020, we wouldn't be able to hire you, you know, from August. But certainly that's where you'd start keeping an eye on our full-time opportunities and applying for Google Careers, because we don't want to get in that way either. It's good to come in as a full-time Googler too.
Fine, thank you. We're flying through this. This is good. And there's more coming, so this is perfect. Coming back to the day-to-day, there's a very interesting question here around Google's approach to employee development. So can you tell us a little bit how it's what it's like in your world?
Yeah, I'm actually leading a series of, so we have Googler to Googler, G2G trainings, and our system is a little bit different, I would say, than other firms, probably other tech firms as well. Again, it's very sort of self-driven, as we've said. You, every 6 months, will have kind of a self-review with your manager and talk through where your areas of development are against sort of attributes that we see, at least in our organization, as being core attributes, core values. And you'll look for development opportunities. So that may be training, that may be conferences, it may be speaking opportunities, actually. It could be any number of things. And you try to balance both personal commitments. So it could be training for a marathon, it could be learning how to teach yoga, all the way to sort of really strong professional commitments. So learning SQL, for instance, or again, sort of presenting in front of senior stakeholders could be one. So we do that every 6 months and make sure that everybody, that there's visibility within the organization, and that we have sort of OKRs, which are personal goals for each quarter, and that those career development opportunities are baked into our OKRs.
And there's a self-service, I guess, internal site where you can go and see all of the trainings that are available literally across the world for Googlers specifically. And some of them are given by Googlers and others are given by outside people. And it's amazing because you can just search through that catalog, and I think there's like thousands and thousands of trainings. So you can see trainings that have been given before, trainings that are currently like in the works. You can take those trainings, so if there's something that's of interest to you, you just kind of chat with your manager and make sure it's in line with basically what Daniel said, your areas of development, and then you can sign up for that training and take it, even if it's a couple days, if it's half a day. You can take it remotely, you can take it in person. So it really is, again, it's self-driven, but you have this catalog open to you just to see really what's out there and what more you can learn about different areas of the business, different parts of yourself. So it is really cool in that sense.
Yeah, for me, obviously, it's still too early to talk about the development, but what is really important to say that all those platforms are also open for the interns, and I'm actually using them, both the trainings and the G2G program, and it's super useful.
Good. I'd like to stay on you, Gal. What's the biggest challenge that you are facing during your internship?
So, yeah, joining the team and actually starting to realize where you are in this big organization is super overwhelming. So the first challenge was just to understand how the organization is built, who's collaborating with who are the real stakeholders for any project that is coming on top. And you can do it by just reaching out to people. So, or for coffee chats or just by writing email. I think the challenge was to communicate, to present yourself, and then talk about your project and get those advices from one person to another till it leads to something concrete that you can take on. So that was the biggest challenge for me, to deliver quite a big project in such a short time.
Okay. I see some head nodding.
Yeah, so you get scoped for projects when you come in, and you'll get some guidance and you'll get some contacts from your manager. But these projects can very often expand over time.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know how many, I had 3, I think, during my internship of different sizes, and you just have to constantly figure out where you are, set yourself up to actually deliver them on time and to socialize them within Google. And balancing time, I think, is really challenging as an intern, and also as full-time as well.
And I think these projects are actual, like, real world useful things for the business. So you're not just doing some slide deck that's never going to be used. So during my internship, I had a project that was to build a customer facing deck. And so the challenge was really kind of getting back into that mindset of what's customer facing. So coming from the MBA, you spent a year, 2 years writing papers and doing presentations and stuff, but that was all in an academic sense. And then you really kind of have to put a different hat on when you're actually at Google doing your internship project, and remember, okay, this is customer facing, this is going to go to these sorts of customers, and making sure that you're addressing the right audience. But it's really great because there are so many rounds of feedback that are available to you. So everyone's always happy to kind of add their 2 cents on your project, which is great because there's so many interesting things that people have to say, and especially those people that have either been at Google for a long time or have done the role that you're doing for quite a while. They have really useful feedback, and you can kind of just continually iterate on that. And then when you're done, I remember my last day, I kind of handed in my slide deck, and one of the guys that I really trusted on the team and I kind of looked up to, he was like, oh, I'm actually using this next week in front of XYZ customer. And I was like, yes.
Oh, yeah.
It was super exciting.
I think just to jump in around even the developmental side and being able to kind of join different trainings and that, I also think it's good to mention that when you come in, you'll also have like your host manager who's there to coach you and mentor you throughout the internship and support you with your project, and you'll set the goals from early on in your internship. But also on top of that, you'll have a buddy on your team, and then there's also an opportunity to sign up for a mentor as well at Google. So you get a lot of other support as well, and kind of can look into others and ask them for their feedback. It's certainly a really kind of feedback giving company, and we see feedback as a gift as well. So there's a lot of different support. And then also on the actual MBA program side, we organise different things like an MBA development day, where like we've brought our MBAs together, obviously to meet with each other and network and connect, but also we'll have like an executive speaker series where you'll get to hear from some of our leads, and they'll share their advice around, you know, their career journey and how to kind of do well during your internship. And then you also have the MBA intern alumni. So, you know, the folks that have interned with us previously are also, they've been so great in offering support to current MBA interns too.
We have a standing lunch date too.
Yeah.
For the interns. Yeah, the former interns.
Cool. So also conscious of the diversity of the audience in terms of the graduation dates. So I know there's a few of you that are graduating this year and that are not eligible for internships at Google. So you've been asking a couple of questions around what are the full-time roles that we have at Google. So I think, and feel free to jump in, it would be safe to say that all the different roles and teams that you see, you have seen on the screens that these panelists are a part of, we are hiring directly full-timers without the internship conversion. So if you are interested in any of those, feel free to apply directly via the career site. And there's tons of more. So maybe do you want to add anything else in terms of the other roles?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I guess one thing just to keep in mind is we recommend applying for our roles about 2 to 3 months before you're available to start. So basically, a lot of the roles that you'd see right now, if you're to go into Google Careers, are looking for people that are ready to kind of start in what we call Q4, so between now and December, or else some early kind of, you know, January, February starts. But like that, yeah, like, you know, you can have a look now and review like what the minimum qualifications are for those different roles and preferred qualifications. But certainly, yeah, you know, don't apply for maybe roles if you're not going to graduate for another 6 months or that, because those roles right now mightn't even be up online. Another thing to keep in mind is you can apply for a minimum of 3 roles every, I think it's 90 days,
90
I believe.
days, yeah.
But just even with that, like we can see, you know, different candidates applying for different roles, and that's great. But certainly, you know, take your time and don't just, you know, apply for loads of different roles, because as a recruiter, it's then difficult to try figure out, okay, what area is this person actually interested in? So like that, like review the roles and apply for the ones that you feel are a good fit for you. And then similarly with the internship, it is a little bit different. You're applying just for the internship, and that's where I'll step in and support. And I think also an opportunity where you can share the roles you're available or interested in will be on the supplemental form. There is a question there this year where you can actually give your top 3 preferences for the areas we're working on.
Perfect, thank you. You've been asking questions as well around locations, and Zurich seems to be coming up quite a lot.
Okay.
So the short answer is full-time positions. You will be able to find openings in Zurich, but unfortunately we're not hiring in Zurich for our MBA interns as of now.
Yeah.
This can change.
And like that, it can change. I mean, you know, we do have, like, we're also in the midst of headcount planning, and basically each year the main teams that we hire for will be across, you know, sales, finance, cloud. But like that, we do have some asks coming in from different teams that would really be looking for an MBA profile, that kind of strategic profile with the different skill sets they're looking for. So, you know, in the next couple of weeks, headcount planning will be closing out, but there could be an ask that could come in for Zurich either. And like that, if I see that you have maybe previous experience in Zurich, or, you know, you have let me know that you'd be really interested in Zurich as a location, I can keep that in mind.
Perfect, thank you. Then there's questions as well around the interview process, so the interviews themselves. There's a bunch of questions around, is it hypothetical questions, behavioral, do we do cases, case study? So I guess I'll throw the questions to you, and if you can speak from your own experiences in terms of the process for, let's say, internships first.
Yeah, so the interviews are kind of a mix. It's starting with a soft communication, just a discussion about yourself, tell us who you are, because the interviewers are really interested to know who you are and how you can fit into the Google's culture. And then there are, of course, a question about your experience, what you have done, and where you really stood out at the position that you previously took. So just try to talk about your highest goal and put some numbers and data-driven details into the speech. And then by what I remember, there were no really cases that you needed to resolve, fit me if I'm wrong. It was really more about pure discussion to understand you, to see the way that you are thinking, and just to get to know you better.
Yeah, and I think Eleanor talked through previously the 4 attributes that are looked for, and that really is the structure of all of the interviews, full-time, internship, and you can read a lot about those online, and I think if you get chosen for interviews, there is more information that's sent, which is super helpful, but really just have a look at those 4 things, because I'm interview trained, and that's what they teach you. They teach you those 4 things specifically, but hypotheticals are a really big one. So there's no case study, at least there wasn't for me, but there were definitely some really large kind of hypothetical questions, exactly like Eleanor said, maybe in an area that I wasn't, I didn't have any experience in, and it was just kind of figuring out how to kind of solve this hypothetical question, looking at, what does your problem solving skills look like? What kind of questions do you ask the interviewer? So it really is, it's definitely a nice kind of casual, calm interview environment. Like Gal said, they really want to get to know you as a person. But yeah, you don't have to case study, at least for what I was doing, which was great.
Yeah, it's worth noting, so these are 30-minute interviews, so it is a bit time limited. We may touch on all 4, or we may just touch on 2. We'll touch on all 4 between the 2 interviews, but you may get a mix of all of them. It depends on kind of the interviewer and how it's going, and how much in depth they want to go on any certain area, based on your CV and what they've seen from your background.
Yeah, agree with what you've all said. I think in terms of like your career motivation as well, like certainly the first kind of initial few minutes of the conversation is to hear about, your own experience and profile, as Gal mentioned, and also like what your long-term career goals are, and be honest, because we want to find the role that is the right fit for you as well, and ideally it's a role that you would like to continue working on after the internship. And like that, generally we would assess googliness and leadership in one interview, and in the other one would be the problem solving question and role related knowledge. Similarly, as Mariah said, we will actually share all that preparation with you in advance, but it's just 2 30-minute interviews, and the interviewers will focus just on those 4 attributes. No case studies, no random questions about how to fit ping pong balls into Boeing 747s. They're all kind of myths. There's no real kind of trick questions to try trick you out. We've all been there ourselves as interview candidates, so it's more so just like a good conversation. And yeah,
thank you all so much. I think we did a pretty good job at answering a good few of the questions that you put on the tool. Apologies in advance if we didn't get the chance to answer your own question that you wrote, but we will write via the functionality an answer to each of your questions that are unanswered now. Before we finish this session, I just want to go back to you, Eleanor, on the visa situation, because there was an entire section with visa in terms of the questions. Do you want to give us a one-liner as to what the situation for visa sponsorship in EMEA?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the nice thing about EMEA is that we do offer visa support. So like that, when you get to offer stage, when we're actually creating your hiring summary, fingers crossed all goes well, but when we're at hiring summary stage, we'll just double check in terms of like what authorization you need, and we actually work with a external company who support us and help you get your visa, and like that, there's absolutely no concerns if you need a visa for outside of Europe. As we mentioned, the majority of our roles are within Europe, and I know even some of the folks here needed visas as well, and I think you felt like it was hopefully a simple enough process.
It's very straightforward. They sort of walk you through it, and it's really easy, to be honest.
Very good.
Great.
Nice, short and sweet. Thank you all so much. Hope you liked it. You can go back to it. This is a recording. Thank you all the panelists for coming and sharing your experiences.
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting.
Bye,
Thanks
everyone.
a million. Bye. Best of luck.